Okay, so for today's math, your assignment is actually in your regular math workbook. It is on page 25. So um, it's similar to what we did in class today, where you're going to be solving some area problems, and then there is a coloring page that goes along with it. But rather than just being trapezoids, it's going to review all four of the shapes that we have learned: rectangles, parallelograms, triangles, and trapezoids. So there are 12 problems. So 4 across, 4 across, 4 across. And then here's the coloring page that goes with it on page 26. So the directions say use formulas to find the area of each polygon. So remember, on your paper for each problem, I expect to see the formula written down, plugging in your numbers for base, height, length, width, whatever it happens to be, and then an answer with units. So you can use a calculator, but I need to see these three things for each of these problems. So the boxes aren't humongous. They're not tiny, but they're not humongous either. So just make sure that you're paying attention to your space, especially for trapezoids, because you've got to do multiple shapes to decompose or compose the trapezoid. So remember that we took notes on page 16 on how to compose and decompose trapezoids. So use that if you need it. I'm going to blow this up, and we're going to do a few things together. So the top row, they have all of the shapes drawn for you. When they get into the second and third, however, they don't draw the shapes. But we're going to draw the trapezoids because it's too hard for you guys, I think, still at this point, and maybe even ever this year in sixth grade, to be able to visualize what you need to do for a trapezoid without a picture. So I'm just going to draw those pictures with you for 7 and 8, and then I think there's one in the bottom row as well. And again, they don't need to be huge, but you want to leave room for actually doing the calculation. But we're just going to draw a trapezoid in box 7 and label these dimensions. So base 1 is always the top base or the top side, usually the smaller of the two. So this is 6 centimeters. This is 12 centimeters. And then remember, your height is going to come down at a 90-degree angle to the base, and that would be your 8 centimeters. Okay, so that would be your trapezoid that you would use, and now you can either compose or decompose it and solve for the area. Same thing, oh sorry, that's the square. Must be that there's just one more trapezoid at the bottom. Yes, okay, so number 12. So this one has fractional sides instead of decimals. So I'm just going to draw my trapezoid, and again, it's not going to be a perfect trapezoid, especially on Cami with my finger, but I think the picture is helpful as we're learning to do this. So base 1 is the top, 4 2/4 feet. And then base 2, oh shoot, no, that's wrong. It's upside down, that's why. So actually this one would be upside down where the bigger is on the top, but we're just gonna, it's fine, we're just gonna do 4 2/4 down here. But technically, oops, what am I doing? It's over too far. Technically this trapezoid would be flipped. And what I mean by that is it would look like this instead, but I'm not worried about that. We don't need to redraw it for that reason. And then, oops, sorry, feet. And then 2.5 feet. And then our base, I'm sorry, height is going to come down to the base, and that is 6 feet. Okay, so those pictures will help you when you have to find the area of those trapezoids. Okay, now I'm going to do one with you. So I'm going to go walk through one trapezoid with you, and then I'm going to leave you to do the rest of these on your own today. So I'm going to do number 4 with you. And I'm going to do decompose. But again, you can always use compose if that's what makes you more comfortable. But decompose tends to be the more preferred way of, oops, I'm going the wrong way, of figuring out area of trapezoids. All right, so I've got my trapezoid here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw this other triangle. So I have a shape right here. So my triangle here, and then I have my triangle here, and then I have my rectangle in the middle. So I've got to find the area of those three shapes. So I said in class today, I usually like to start with the rectangle. So I'm going to go ahead and write down my rectangle formula, area equals length times width. If you need reminders of what the formulas are, remember that they are all on page 9 in your workbook if you need to use that to help you today. All right, so now I'm just going to plug in my length, and my length is 4.5 feet. My height is 5. So I'm going to go ahead and plug those in. And I'm going to solve for the area of that rectangle. And I'm going to pull up my calculator here. Get a minute to load. All right, so 4.5 times 5, 22.5. So 22.5, and don't forget your units, feet squared. And I like to write it in here just to keep it in another spot. All right, now we're going to move on to our triangle. So this is where kids get stuck in that they get confused because you have to figure out what the bases are equal to for your triangles. They don't tell you that. So we know that this part of our trapezoid at the top is 4.5 feet. We know this entire long piece at the bottom is 7.5 feet. So I like to cross this out and put the 4.5 there. So 4.5 plus something is going to give me 7.5. So I have to subtract. So 7.5 minus 4.5 would be 3. And these look like they're exactly the same. So this would be 1.5 and 1.5. Okay. But even if I put 2 and 1, I'm still going to end up with the same answer. So don't stress about whether or not they're exactly the same size or not. All right, so now that I have my base of my triangle and my height, I'm going to go ahead and start solving. So first thing, I'm going to start with my formula, area equals 1/2 base times height. And then I'm just going to plug in my information. So 1/2, 1.5 times 5. And I'm going to go back to my calculator. And I'm using my calculator on my computer here, and I don't know how to do fractions on this, so I'm going to turn that 1/2 into a decimal and multiply that way. But you guys can use fractions if you want. So I get 3 75/100 is my answer, feet squared. All right, and then, so I know that this is 3 75/100. And I know that this is 3 75/100. So now I just have to add them all together. So again, I got to pull up my calculator, and I'm going to do, oops, clear, 3 75/100 plus 3 75/100 plus 22. And I get 20. Did I do that right? Oh, did I mess something up? Oh, I did. Messed something up. I was like, that's not the answer I got before. Sorry, this is 22 5/10. And I did not write that inside of my rectangle. So I'm glad that I recognized that something was not right. Okay, sorry about that. So we're gonna try again. 3 75/100 plus 3 75/100 plus 22 5/10, and I get an answer of 30. So I'm gonna write that here, 22 5/10 plus 3 and 75 hundredths plus 3 and 75 hundredths equals 30. So my total area equals 30 feet squared. And if you would please box or circle your final answer, I would be oh so grateful. All right, so then what I have to do, if I want to do the coloring, and you don't have to, you need to find this answer on the coloring sheet. Now notice how it says if your answer is not there, you made a mistake. If you find something not there, then that tells you I got to go back. Something is wrong. So if I had just seen this 22 here and hadn't done what I was supposed to and fixed it, I would not have found my answer. So really good way to self-check. Notice how it says lime green, light blue, red, violet. I wouldn't worry too much about those specific colors. You know, use what you have if you want to color. And I do see 30 feet right here. I'm just going to use a highlight. Let me see if I can find a lime green. That's kind of lime green, I guess. Oh no, this is lime green. There we go. All right, so we're going to use that lime green, and I'm going to try to get this much of the space as much as I can. You would obviously color it in, and there we go. So that is your task for today. Now, before I let you go, there is a typo in number 10. So actually, let me zoom back in. So in number 10, instead of saying, well, there's actually two typos. So instead of saying length equals 6.5 inches, it should say length equals 4.5 inches. So you need to fix that. And then because this is a rectangle, this should really say width instead of height. It's not a huge big deal. They're essentially the same thing. But I didn't want you to get confused. So it should be width is 2 1/3 inches, not height. Okay, so length is 4.5 and width is 2 1/3. Okay, so again, please make sure that you're writing down those formulas. I'm going to say that it's incomplete. If you don't have a formula, plug in and answer with units. I don't want to have to send it back. So please do as I am asking you to, and use the notes and formulas in your workbook if you need to.